The Chicago White Sox won a wild one on the South Side Tuesday night. An overturned call went the White Sox way, and it just seems better to be lucky than good. Sox manufactured runs and also hit a couple home runs. Dylan Cease had a good slider working, but it was the bullpen that tried to give the game away. Sox go for the series win on Wednesday night.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong die-hard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Chicago White Sox take on the Texas Rangers on Wednesday. Series finale. Michael Kopech is on the mound. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. State of our White Sox. Hey, 32-43, 11 games under 500, but 4.5 games back. 4.5 games back in the AL Central. Sox took care of business, a bizarre one at 35th and Shields on Tuesday night. Beat the Rangers 7-6. Starter Dylan Cease, he had that good slider going, that nasty in the dirt, wipeout type of slider. He was able to go 6 innings. Sox got to Evaldi, but it looked like the White Sox bullpen would be the heel until Elvis Andrus, Zach Remillard did damage in the 8th inning. White Sox go for the series win on Wednesday. Full details later on in the episode. Prior to the game, more injuries to discuss. Sox placed pitcher Garrett Crochet on the 15-day IL, retroactive to June 17th with left shoulder inflammation, and returned Jimmy Lambert from his injury rehab stint assignment at Class AAA Charlotte, and reinstated him from the 15-day IL. That's going to be a tough one to the bullpen. It looked like something was a little off. I don't know if you remember a couple games ago, Pedro went out to the mound. It looked like something was strange after Crochet threw a pitch, checked in with Crochet, and you could kind of just read lips, and Crochet's like, I'm fine. You know, it's nothing. And maybe he just didn't want to admit it at that time, but tough not to have Crochet coming out of that bullpen now. Tim Anderson was not in the lineup, starting lineup, I should say, once again. Neither was Luis Robert Jr. and Popeye Rodriguez, also not in the starting lineup. This was per Vinny Duber of CHGO. Pedro Grifol said he's hopeful Tim Anderson can be back in the lineup on Wednesday, but was waiting to see how Tuesday's pregame workout went for the shortstop with a bothersome shoulder. Per Grifol, Tim Anderson was only able to run during pregame work yesterday. Pedro Grifol said Luis Robert Jr. was just getting a day off after making 20 straight starts. Robert is 27 games away from matching the career high 98 he played in last season. That's 98 games. The season is 162. Griffol's been happy with how Robert has posted and played through typical baseball soreness. Sox do have a day off on Thursday, and Luis Robert Jr. is 25 years old. Also, prior to the game, White Sox claimed right-handed pitcher Touque Toussaint. I'm sure I'm butchering that name. I tried to find a pronunciation. Touque Toussaint off waivers from the Guardians. He put up a 4.06 ERA in 32 and 2/3 innings for their AAA team this season and made one big league start last week. Rick Hahn does not talk very often, and when he does, I feel like I got to take advantage and break it all down. So there was more that Rick Hahn discussed from Monday's press conference about where this White Sox team is at, where they could be at the deadline and beyond. This was Hahn from Monday. I hope we're not proving the old baseball axiom that you can't win a pennant in April, but you can lose one, Hahn said. We're 11 under and had a 10-game losing streak. Remove that, and all of a sudden, we're right in the thick of things. But that's not how it works. We looked at the schedule going into Yankee Stadium and then playing a good Marlins team and going to Dodger Stadium and Seattle, now playing a really good Texas team, that we knew this path was going to be difficult for this 3 to 4 week stretch leading up to the break, Hahn said. And we've been a tick under 500 in that stretch. So it hasn't been devastating, but it absolutely hasn't been a significant step forward. Hahn was also asked, hey, why aren't the White Sox a better team right now? I don't have the answer for that, in all candor, which is a perfect Hahn line, in all candor. He went on to say, it's not for lack of individual confidence. It's not for lack of support from the staff. It's not from lack of communication about expectations and what we feel guys are capable of doing. We have been digging ourselves out of a hole for a while now. It's a little tough to have that edge when you are swimming upstream. It's a talented group, Hahn said. It's a confident group, even if they aren't showing it, and they know what they are capable of doing. It's just a matter of us getting there. I don't feel there's a lack of cohesiveness or every man for himself kind of thing, or lack of preparation. Again, that's not what I think is ailing us, but I understand the speculation. Well, as long as he understands. Now, John Greenberg is who we might be getting out of the Athletics, since we no longer have the great James Fegan. And Greenberg had a write-up about our Chicago White Sox just recently, and just this team that's floundering and playing disappointing baseball, underperforming, all that kind of stuff. And this was a little bit of blurb from his recent article. This team, meaning, of course, the White Sox, needs a major shakeup. It needed it last offseason, but with a high payroll, poor attendance, and a reckoning coming, the Sox have to start thinking about the future once again, because the present is looking more and more like the past. So here we are, White Sox now 11 games under 500. Four and a half back in the AL Central. I am trying not to look at that 4.5 games, but obviously everybody's got to fan the way they want to fan and to get through this long season. So I completely understand holding on to that 4.5. Maybe it turns to 3 or 2 as we get closer to the deadline. And then maybe the front office has to possibly make a decision. I don't know. But trade deadline chatter has been going on for a while, as you know. National baseball writers all over the place commenting on what could be for a variety of different teams. And obviously the Sox are involved in that. They've got some guys coming off the books after this season. Pitching is always coveted, especially starting pitching. And, what teams are buyers right now and what do they need? And that's where I'm starting to look at some of the division races. I mean, how about a team like the Cincinnati Reds that are right up there at the top of the NL Central? What could they use? Most likely starting pitching and maybe another arm. Will they be major buyers? What do they have that we could use? You hear Lance Lynn's name thrown around, Giolito. I think Giolito of the two is the more desirable one, of course, and probably the one we'd get the most back from. But again, what direction are the Sox going to go? Giolito has been mentioned before by baseball pundits that even if the Sox turn things around, they don't believe the Sox will retain Giolito. So something to keep our eyes on is other teams around baseball start to emerge as buyers or sellers. Elvis Andrus making the most of his playing time. Couple big hits on Tuesday, and Dylan Cease was able to go 6 innings. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The White Sox face off against the Texas Rangers on Wednesday. Series finale. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Southsiders edge out the Rangers 7-6 on Tuesday night. Pitching matchup, it was a good one. Dylan Cease against right-handed pitcher for Texas, Evaldi. He coming into the game, Evaldi, 9-3 with a 2.59 ERA. He had a lot of movement. I'm going to talk more on him as we go along in this episode. I liked what I saw from Evaldi. He was a guy that the Sox could have gone after in free agency throughout the last few off seasons, I believe. Somebody that I had on my short list as a potential arm to add to the rotation. Anyway, the White Sox went with this lineup on Tuesday: Benintendi, Vaughn, Jimenez, Berger, Sheets, Grandal, Frazier, Andrus, and Remillard. Again, when you look at that type of lineup, June 20th, 2023, you just kind of shake your head with Evaldi on the hill saying, I don't think so. Now, I don't think this is going to go the White Sox way, and that's why they play the game. A very bizarre game. This was Grifol on Jake Berger, batting fourth on Tuesday night. This was prior to the game. What wouldn't I like about it? He can hit the ball out of the ballpark. He's got 16 home runs. He's got a good OPS, 859. He fits in that spot. There's not much you can't like about it. It's such a bizarre statement after how he got so defensive when asked about Berger hitting eighth and the frustration he showed, and asked Jerry. And now he's got Berger hitting fourth, and it made it sound like he had no memory of that issue with Berger in eighth. And it almost felt like he didn't make the lineup. And he's looking at the lineup saying like, oh, wow, we got Berger at fourth. Why, That's a great thing. You got to love that. He makes me laugh, Pedro Grifol. Anyway, Berger went 0 for 3 with a walk and a strikeout while hitting fourth on Tuesday. He will go into some cold stretches, Jake Berger. He absolutely will. We're kind of seeing that right now. White Sox in June coming into the game scored 3 runs or less 10 times in 16 games. A 187 average with runners in scoring position, last in all of baseball. And if you've been watching a lot of White Sox baseball, you knew it. You didn't even need to look up that stat, and you didn't even have to have somebody tell it to you. You could have just predicted that. And 9 of last 13 runs scored on solo home runs, tied for third in all of baseball in home runs, but 28th in runs. Tuesday was one of those situations, in my mind, better to be lucky than good. Bottom first, Sox stopped the solo home run streak at 9 after Andrew Vaughn had a base hit to right field, and Eloy hit a no-doubter to right field, 2-0 Sox quickly. Jimenez hit a 94-mile-per-hour fastball down the middle, just crushed it. Bottom second, Frazier creating some havoc, stole second, and ball got away, so he was able to get to third with 2 outs, but he was stranded. I still think that's a good sign. I like the fact that Benintendi will run. He's hitting in the leadoff spot these days with TA not in the lineup. And again, creating some disruption. You know, if you've got the speed and you're able to do it, which Benintendi has shown he can this season, you never know what's going to happen. You know, a rush throw by a catcher, a botch ball by the second baseman or shortstop, and before you know it, you got somebody at third base. Cease in the top of the third, man, he had that knuckle curve and slider combo. That knuckle curve is like that 12-6 tumbler. It almost looks like it falls off of a table. And that slider, he had it sharp. That was some tight rotation, biting, tunneling into the dirt. Lots of off-speed stuff, and went upstairs for a leadoff strikeout. Got a fly out to right field and struck out Seager. Got him chasing a slider. We have seen teams be very patient with Dylan Cease's wipeout slider. Detroit comes to mind. Texas was not very patient. They were going after, but it was a very tempting slider. Cease after 3, 1 hit, 5 strikeouts, a walk, 45 pitches. Evaldi had a lot of movement on his pitches, cutter, splitter, kind of came at you with a 3/4 arm angle. The ball would almost back up to a right-handed pitcher. Look, this might sound weird, but I don't think so. 20 years ago, there was a pitcher, Esteban Loaiza for the White Sox. He managed to make an all-star game. They even made a bobblehead out of him. He was short-lived, but his motion, what he was able to do with the ball, which had a lot of movement, kind of out of the zone, tucking back in, it would back right-handed pitchers up. It reminded me of what Evaldi was doing on Tuesday night. Sox were quiet after Eloy's 2-run home run. Go top of 4, Cease got his 6th strikeout using a very effective slider to get Josh Young through a 2-0 hanging breaking ball, though, to Garcia. And, man, he mashed it to left field. 2-1 White Sox. Benintendi, I mean, he didn't even move. That thing got out of the ballpark in a hurry. Cease worked upstairs to Low, sitting 95, 96 miles per hour. Then on a full count, Low ripped a fastball to center field. No further damage. Cease was at 63 pitches. Bottom 4, White Sox went down quickly. 3 ground outs. Top of 5, Seager crushed a fastball at the knees for an RBI double. Leadoff walk came around to score. 2 hits and a walk so far. 1 out. Runners on third and second. Young, it was slider mania to him, and he hit him swinging for number 8 in the strikeout chart. Garcia hit another hanger, but this time it stayed in the ballpark. Game was tied at 2. Bottom of 5, Elvis Andrus broke the tie with a solo home run, 3-2 Sox. Remillard with an infield hit. Benintendi's single made it first and third with 1 out. A Vaughn fielder choice. Remillard scored 4-2 White Sox. Let's go 6th inning, top of 6. Going into the inning, I really thought this was going to be it for Dylan Cease. He was at 97 pitches against Duran with 2 outs. Middleton was warming up in the bullpen. Slider still very nasty and effective. wipeout quality, but got Durant on a fastball to strike him out and end the inning. Some nice balance there. He obviously got Rangers hitters looking for that slider, thinking it's going to come. This is how he's going to get me. And then Cease was hitting corners with his fastball. He was going also upstairs with 2 strikes, as we have seen with so many White Sox pitchers as of late. Bottom 6, leadoff walk by Berger. He was stranded. Top of 7, things got really weird here. Middleton, of all people, he's coming in the game. Luis Robert Jr. entered the game, playing center field. Leadoff single by Jankowski, another base hit. The Rangers, they just do not go away. First and third, nobody out. Walked Simeon. He had him, then lost him. So you got bases loaded. And I was just thinking, maybe this is now Middleton's turn to collapse. We've seen it from so many other arms out of the bullpen. Base hit by Seager on a breaking ball. That just hung up there, screaming to be hit. 2 runs come in, 4-4. Middleton exits. Santos comes in, second and first, nobody out. Botched play by Andrus. Could have been a double play, but it ended up with the Rangers loading the bases. You had a force out then, Berger to Yaz. A big strikeout out of Lowe. 2 outs, bases loaded. Heim had the count in his favor, 3-1. It went full. Santos got Heim to ground out. End of inning. Excellent job by Gregory Santos. Bottom 7, Barlow came out of the pen for the Texas Rangers. Bizarre play with 2 outs. Texas could not handle a bloop hit to short center field. Benintendi hustling all the way. Managed to squirm around the tag at second base with that headfirst slide. Texas went to the bullpen. Anderson to face Vaughn. A big run out there at second base. Andrew Vaughn drew a walk. Anderson was all over the place to Andrew Vaughn. Very wild. Eloy was up. He had a chance to be a hero. Swung at the first pitch. I mean, you're sitting there watching what Anderson just did to Vaughn. I mean, he just can't stop himself. I mean, it was a foot out of the zone. Eloy struck out. Heavy dose of sliders. End of inning. We'll go top of 8. Santos still in there. Texas had some action on the base paths with 2 outs and runners on second and first. Grifol went to Bummer to face lefty Corey Seager. That matchup there, and just unreal. You could feel it about to happen. Bummer was behind in the count, 2-0. He threw a cookie to Seager, and he just ripped it. Right center gap, 2 runs scored, 6-4 Texas. That was not Bummer being unlucky. That was just bad from Bummer. Bottom 8, here we go. Sox made it interesting. Luis Robert Jr. with a walk. Yaz with a base hit. Popeye Rodriguez made his MLB debut, came in a pinch run. Tim Anderson, pinch hit for Frazier with runners at second and first, only 1 out. What did Anderson do? Ground out, but runners did advance. Elvis, he played hero and punched one through the right side. Both runs scored. Game tied at 6. Remillard with a shot to left. Elvis was sent and called out at home. A great throw by Jankowski, but the play was reviewed and it was overturned. It was called catcher violation. Sox took the lead 7-6. Honestly, I don't think that was catcher violation at all. I don't know what the umps were seeing. Bruce Bochy was furious. Of course, he was thrown out of the game. Hey, better to be lucky than good. Top of 9, Graveman came in. A 1-2-3 inning. Sox win a wild one. Cease's final line, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, couple of walks, 9 strikeouts. Cease's ERA now 4.22. He threw 101 pitches. Middleton, 3 hits, 2 earned runs without recording an out. The 2 runs that Bummer gave up were charged to Santos, which just seems terribly unfair. Sox offense, 6 runs, 11 hits. Sox struck out 6 times. They had 4 walks, though. Home runs from Jimenez and Andrus. Elvis with 3 RBI. Sox were 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Can Michael Kopech follow up on what Cease did, go deep in the game? Sox go for the series win on Wednesday. More on that in a moment. Sox Rangers Wednesday on the south side. Kopech on the mound. Michael Kopech has a record of 1-1 with an ERA of 4.09 and 17 strikeouts in 5 appearances against the Rangers in his career. Kopech made 2 starts against the Texas Rangers last season. 1 start, he lasted only 3 1/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 4 earned runs. And the other start, he left after 13 pitches. Maybe you remember this game. Kopech exited a June 12th game against Texas because of a knee injury. Sox ended up losing that game 8-6. So not a great showing last year. Michael Kopech has a record of 3-5 with an ERA of 3.92 and 89 strikeouts in 14 appearances this season. Last time we saw him, he opened up the series against the Mariners last Friday. He only went 4 1/3, gave up 6 hits, 1 earned run, walked 6 though, and struck out 4. Kopech was not happy with his performance. I needed to go long, and I did about as poor of a job that as I can. 6 walks, giving away free bases, kept myself in high pitch counts every inning. So there is what we're looking for, those pitch counts, how he manages the situation. And hopefully he follows somehow the lead of Cease in any way he can and go at least 6. Wouldn't that be nice? It would be a nice turnaround from his previous start. And we'll see what the White Sox offense brings on another warm night on the south side, most likely. Thanks for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTV. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and get any questions, comments you have into lockedonsox@gmail.com. Thinking about doing a mailbag episode, maybe for Friday's episode. Would love to specifically get your thoughts about what the White Sox should maybe do at the trade deadline. I know we're weeks away, but where you're seeing this White Sox team, what would you like them to do with regards to how they've been playing, where they are in the AL Central, and beyond. White Sox take on the Rangers on Wednesday at 35th and Shields. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Hey, thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. Hey, everydayers, you know who you are, and I appreciate it. On the next episode, I'll recap Michael Kopech's outing and hopefully be talking about a White Sox series win. Appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.